Rain fell like a confession, long silver threads blurring the city into watercolor. The skyline stood jagged and indifferent beyond the glass, towers of empty windows, while a single yellow street lamp burned like a small, stubborn truth. Elias Kane sat in the center of his apartment as if the room itself had been hollowed out around him. The air tasted of stale coffee and the residue of too many nights. He had spent his life building worlds for other people, apps that braided strangers into fragile constellations, but his own life had unstitched itself into fragments. Sarah's laughter gone 2 years. Leela's face reduced to a weekly flicker on a screen, a smile that flared and vanished and left him in the dark. He kept his phone face down, as if it might accuse him. When the storm pressed its weight against the window, lightning carved the sky and thunder rolled like a verdict. Elias shook pills into his palm, small white lies he told himself to keep the edges from fraying, swallowed them, and let sleep take him. Sleep did not offer mercy. It opened a door. It carried him back through years and rooms until he stood again before the house that had taught him how to hold grief. The house of his childhood rose in the dream like a memory made solid, a Victorian with a sagging roof and boards swollen with rain, stairs bent under the weight of time. He was a boy there, hammer in hand beside his father, building a treehouse under a forgiving sun. The world then was simple and loud with laughter. The memory ruptured with the screech of tires, the folding of metal, the sudden absence that rearranged everything. The boy stood in the rain, shoes soaked, the sound of his own breath too loud in the hollow left by a man who would not return. The house breathed around him, as if the wood itself remembered sorrow. At the top of the staircase, Leela waited not the 8-year-old he had left in the world of bills and meetings, but a figure that held every age she would ever be, hair like constellations, eyes deep as wells. She reached for him with a hand that was small and sure and said, without the need for words, that the river inside him was not meant to be dammed. A corridor of mirrors opened and multiplied his face into 1,000 accusations. Each pain returned a different wound. The boy at 15 with fists clenched at his father's grave, the groom beneath a wide sky with Sarah's hand in his, the nights when fever took Leela and his phone buzzed louder than her breath. He raised his hand and smashed one mirror. Glass burst into bright betrayals, and blood warmed his palm. The shards reckoned themselves as if to show him that breaking did not end the story. Pain spoke in a voice that was not cruel but necessary. Feel me, live me. The corridor widened into a trembling web of thin lines waiting, unnamed. A stage descended, heavy curtains swallowing the edges of the dream. He sat in the front row and watched versions of himself enact the life he had been avoiding. The man who touched screens more than skin, the husband who turned away, the father who missed first steps, the son who had sealed his grief in stone. His father's ghost stood in the wings, shirt-worn, eyes like weather, and said what the living could not. Life is not a wall against water. It is the river, and you must learn to ride it and to help others swim. Sarah's presence drifted through the smoke of memory, a shape that reminded him he had built worlds for strangers, but not for the people who needed him most. Around him, the jury rose, not phantoms but small mercies he had ignored. The barista who slid a free coffee across the counter with a look that said, "I see you." Mrs. Hale, the neighbor who thanked him for carrying her bags up the stairs. Their verdict was not condemnation, but a mirror held up to his life guilty of hiding his fire. Guilt became a hinge rather than a tomb. Light came then, slow as dawn. Leela's hand found his and pulled him toward the brightness. Scenes unspooled in gold. Mrs. Hale smiling, a grandmother and a grandchild reunited through fragile bridges of code, Sarah holding a child's drawing of a bridge painted in clumsy, hopeful colors. Cracks caught the light. What was poured out filled the empty. The trembling web brightened and began to weave itself. He woke with the taste of rain in his mouth and the ache of a real cut in his palm. Dawn bled pink across the walls. The storm had moved on. He called Sarah. His voice came stripped of armor. She listened, breathed, and said yes. That afternoon, the park became a small cathedral of light. Leaves fell like soft benedictions. Leela swung high, laughter spilling like bells, and Elias listened to her stories of stars and spaceships and the small, enormous things that fill a child's world. At Mrs. Hale's door, he carried her bags and felt the gravity of gratitude settle into him. Her look was a quiet benediction. You shine now, keep it. That night, his laptop hummed with a different kind of work. At Mrs. Hale's door, he carried her bags and felt the gravity of gratitude settle into him. Her look was a quiet benediction. You shine now, keep it. That night, his laptop hummed with a different kind of work. He began shaping the trembling web into code. He called it etchweave. Lines became bridges. Interfaces became doors. The marks the dream left on him were not scars to hide, but lights to follow. The calls with Sarah became steady, patient rebuilding. Leela kept flying. Mrs. Hale kept nodding. Etchweave grew in small, stubborn increments, one person reaching out, another answering, a grandmother finding a grandchild, a neighbor finding a voice. Bridges multiplied until they formed a lattice across the city. Elias Kane, once hollowed by absence, now carried a river inside him that moved. He learned that wounds could be doors, that life is not lived by building higher walls, but by weaving stronger nets. And when rain began again, he stood by the window and remembered the boy with the hammer, the mirrors that reformed, the web that waited for a name. He thought of Leela's hand small and sure, and of Mrs. Hale's smile. He knew the river ran through him and through them all. Life does not ask that we be unbroken, only that we be willing to show the break, to pour what we have into the world, and to reach for the hands that reach back.